I want to make a flow that will check when the latest Chainsaw Man chapter came out, and if it came out within the last 5 days, I want to go and read it. If it's older than 5 days, I want to close the browser. First, we need to open a new browser instance, where we navigate to the page. Once on the page, we need to extract data specifically from this table. We do this by using the web data extraction action. All the information related to the chapters is found in this table, so we need to navigate to the first item and extract the href or the hyperlink. That is the link we need to go to read the chapter. I also need to get the release date in order to say how old it is. So we extract the text. You can go to the advanced settings to see how the CSS selectors have been made. We can compare this path with what we find in the developer tab on the web page. So we press F12 to open up the developer tab. Here we can see that we start off by selecting the HTML tag, then we navigate to the body. We navigate to the first div element, which is actually 0 because index 0. Then we pick the third div, which is div eq2, so this one. Then we take again the first div. Then we take the third div again, the UL tag. Then we take the first item on the list, which we always need to get the first item and not specifically chapter 1, 2, 4. And then we get the A tag. And from this tag we want to extract the href, which is the link, so this value here. We use the same tactic to get the release date, but instead of getting the A tag, we instead get the span element, which is not the first one, which would be span eq0, but we need to get span eq1, which will give us the title here. So actually we don't want the own text, because that right now is 3 hours ago, and we need to get the title so we can extract the date it was released. So we actually want to change this value to be title, which will give us the whole date, because we can't use 3 hours ago for anything. Then we hit finish and save. And now we're actually done with the page itself. After running the flow once, we can see that we've extracted the data, which we now need to access. So to make things easier, I'm going to assign these informations to a variable. So we'll make a variable called chapter link, which we set to be equal to the data from webpage variable, where we want to get the first row and the first column, which again is going to be item 0, 0. We're going to do the exact same thing to get the release date. This time we need to get the second column, which again is going to be 1 because index 0. In order to compare the release date of the chapter to today's date, we need to go down and get the current date. And since we don't care about hours, we can just say I want to get the current date only. Now we have both the link, the release date and the current date, so we can take and calculate the difference between today's date and the release date. So we'll say that the from date is today, because this is going to always be equal to the release date or higher, because a chapter can't be released in the future. And we want the difference in days because we don't care exactly what hour the chapter was released. At this point we can add some logic to say that if this chapter was released within the last 5 days, then I want to open up the link so I can read the chapter. So I'll say that if the time difference variable is equal to or less than 5, so if there is at most 5 days difference between when the chapter was released and today, then I want to navigate to the website, which I get from my variable. And if the chapter is more than 5 days old, then I simply want to close the browser. Since I'm the user, I know that closing the browser means the latest chapter is old, so I don't need to add any kind of message box. So now we can save this and run it. Since the latest chapter was released today, it should click chapter 124, and I'll find out if I can show you that. Just to prove the point, I'm going to show that if the time difference is greater than 5, the browser will simply close. So we'll add a set variable action right before the condition, where I will say that the time difference is going to be 6. So this would be if the chapter is 6 days older. And now we need to remember to delete this, otherwise I'm going to be very confused in 2 weeks.